looks back. She never looks back. Looks back. Demons are crawling back to your bed, and they're calling out your name. Demons are crawling back to your bed.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, I try to be the best at something because my wife says I'm worse at a lot of things. Hey, tonight we got a great guest. He is a magician in the dark realm. He's an actor in horror movies and sci-fi movies. Ron Fitzgerald, and he'll be on right after this.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give a buck or two. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
And I really sincerely do. You know, our audience level, when I first started out, when Art Bell, well, about 15, 16 months ago, talked me into getting back into radio after being retired. You know, I was really in a downer the first month or so doing a broadcast with 15 people. That's right. I had 15 listeners. And then all of a sudden it got up to 100. And, you know, I was telling Art, gee, this is not what I'm used to, you know, coming off of some major broadcast radio stations in the country and having 15 to 100 listeners. Well, you know what? We're now breaking between 250 to 270,000 listeners download and, you know, play on demand later through all the different apps. So we are growing. I want to thank everybody out there. I want to thank the people in the UK, Australia. Boy, you guys have just discovered the show, and I'm getting a lot of people from Australia listening and commenting about the show. And again, the truckers, the long haul truckers that download the show and then they play it when they're out there on that lonely road at night. And I want to thank you. Hey, Ron Fitzgerald, how you doing, my friend?
Good, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, considering I found my car keys this morning.
This is good. Where do we find our keys?
I don't know. At my age, it's getting harder to find every day. You know, I put it in weird places like, you know, like in the freezer, you name it, or it left in the ignition with the door locked.
Now, I know other people that leave them in funky places. You got to find, you need like some sort of like, you know, put like some sort of skull with an open head by the door, and you know, just to dump them in the skull when you come in. You know?
Yeah, I should do that. Hey, thank you for the pictures. I got at least one of them up in my studio. You know, I kind of been revamping my studio the past week and a half. It never stops, you know. It went from having a studio into, you know, our master bedroom to actually a nice size studio in our house, which I totally gutted out, and it rivals pretty much any major FM radio station in the country in the control room. And I just can't resist with my, you know, broadcasting background. I can't leave things alone.
Well, no, it's always an evolving project, isn't it? And it's awesome. I'm glad you got the photo. So I hope it looks good hanging on the wall in there. You have to shoot that, because if anybody hasn't seen your awesome studio, they can go on your social media or your website and take a look at that. He's got some tours he's taken, you know, you've taken some video of the studio, and I was impressed because it looks like a lot of studios when I've done like in studio interviews and things like that. It looks like anywhere else I've been. So you built yourself a nice little tech hub there for yourself. It's very cool.
Well, I do want to thank you because after I hung up that picture on the wall, then I said, you know what, this wall needs something else. So I went out and I found an antique radio, an old, floor model console radio that was manufactured by Silvertone, 1939. And I stuck that on the wall or next to the wall underneath your picture. And then I go, you know what? Guess what? I said, I need a globe. So I went out and got a world globe. And then I get that on top of the, it just never quits,
Nice.
I should have been an interior decorator.
It'll look like, your Batcave soon,
So it's gone
That's
crazy
awesome.
today, my friend. Since I posted you're going to be on the show, I started getting text messages, emails on, my private email, which I don't give out to many people. And then our nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. People were just blowing it up all day long, wanting to know more about you. What got you into, acting? What got you into magic? And, how did your parents respond with you going into magic and then going into the dark realm, sticky fun magic? And that's all the stuff we need to find out here, to satisfy the listeners.
Wow. Well, thank you. I love the questions, and I love that people were intrigued enough to send us questions when they came in. So again, thank you to you, and thank you, to your very huge and growing worldwide audience out there. So, wow, where do you want me to start? I guess, because one thing led to the other. I started doing magic when I was a kid, and then that later led me to, in a nutshell, it's a longer story with lots of weird stuff along the way. But I started doing magic, and then at some point it was very traditional as well. I mean, I got a magic kit many moons ago, years ago, back before the war on terror. Long ago, children, we gathered around fires and played with magic kits. And so I got a magic kit as a gift when I was 8 years old.
Lucky you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I asked for a magic kit when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Maybe I was 6. I can't remember. But, I opened up under the Christmas tree. I couldn't wait to get the presents, and I was hoping to get this magic kit. You see in the back of Popular Mechanics at the time. And I open it up, and it's like a nurse's kit. And,
Really?
and I started crying and putting a big fit, and I ended up going into the bedroom with my dad, and he laid one right on my ass. But, then my mom said, well, I'm sorry. I tried to find you the magic kit, but they were all sold out because you told us at the last minute, but I got you a nurse kit. You can play nurse. And I go, I don't want to play nurse. Do I look like a nurse, Mommy?
No, later that's good, when you're a little older and you have the naughty nurse kit, that's all good. I have naughty nurses in the show now because, that's...
Well, I wanted to be, a doctor kit would have been fine.
But I understand your disappointment when you were a kid. How old were you when this happened?
I think between 6 or 7. I wouldn't have been so bad if it was, a doctor's kit. Then I could have gone back in my first grade class and said, hey, to the pretty girls, hey, I'm your doctor.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Not just the doctor, but the mad doctor. Yeah, because that's what got me started. It's like I'd see, there was magic specials on TV, and I loved to watch that stuff. And I was already into horror films. I loved horror films and stuff like that. And I got started, easing into it with the old black and white Universal monsters, classic, like Bela Lugosi as Dracula, Karloff as Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein. Loved that stuff. Loved it. And that was something that struck me as I went on, because when I started, I mean, and people are going to find this hard to believe now if they see my image with my eyeliner and the shaved head and the dark gothic, clothing and look that I have, that in the beginning, when I started and when I pursued it, this is all very classic magic. I mean, we're talking birds and bunnies and formal wear tuxes and crap like that. I mean, stuff that's just, shouldn't be done anymore.
Okay, but where did you hide the bunnies at?
Well, there's a lot of places to hide, animals and different things, but I can't can't go into specifics. There's load areas, and a lot of it's built into equipment and things like that, and there are other ways to do it. I can't go into a lot of that,
I
you know,
understand.
and I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's like, you know, everybody knows there is a secret to it, and there's a technique to it, because basically magic is kind of like special effects, but live, you know, in person, and that's the way it's best is live, because some of that stuff you can't believe. And then as we see things, you know, in television, the movies and things like that, it is one thing, and you're going, wow, that's wild. But, you know, I mean, there are certain illusionists on television, which I won't mention by name, but they have heavily edited their performances so much that even when they went to go do a show in Las Vegas, it was so different, the material they had to choose to do that show, that people were disappointed. They couldn't just take their TV show and put it in front of an audience because they couldn't do it live, a lot of it. So that, you know, that's why the experience of, you know, what you see there, you know, and then what you see live later is so much more impactful, even, you know, rather than on a screen, that, you know, which is a great way to share it and a great way to experience it. But the best way is to see it live, because then it's right in your face, and it's a theatrical experience that way. It's a personal experience, and that makes it so much more interesting, because you don't have any cameras. There's no filter in there. It's you and what you're seeing that performer do, and then, you know, like, weird stuff's going down, and that's great, and that's the best reactions, and you can capture that to the camera. But that feeling and the energy that exchange between, you know, you and your audience is the most palpable, of course, in a live arena. But to be able to get people to see you live, you have to be on television and movies and things like that. So that is part of that whole thing. So I can't, you know, although I'd like to talk about technique, I can't, and I don't, because I don't want to give away the art, even though, and it's weird, because when I talk about it in terms of special effects live, that is essentially what I'm doing, what other magicians and illusionists are doing. And you see tutorials, and you see behind the scenes of television and movies. They show you. They're happy to show you how they, you know, achieved an effect and things like that. What's different is, since we're doing it live, because it comes from a tradition of secrecy and hiding these secrets, so, you know, so you're not seeing them, you know. So, because when magic is performed, when it should look, you know, effortless and flawless, and like it's just happening in front of you, even though it took a massive amount of preparation and work to get it to look like that in front of you, you know. And they're happy to show that off, to show all the hard work and the tech and everything involved when they're doing it in movies or television. But, you know, we illusionists as performers don't want to give away all of our stuff, all of our trade secrets, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, everybody knows a little something. Everybody knows something of what somebody's doing on stage, somebody, you know, what a performer's doing in front of you. And it, you know, so, you know, it's not just about that. I mean, the effect's got to be there, and not knowing how it's achieved, you know, really adds to the, you know, the effect and the impact of that. But the thing that is really more interesting is not just how they're doing it, but why they're doing it, and what that's saying. If it's really interesting and put to you by somebody who's an interesting, you know, and skilled entertainer, then you are more entertained by the experience, not just the, well, how the hell did he do that?
Well, you know,
that's my very long answer.
Well, it was a great answer, you know. And by the way, we'll address, I have somebody asking a question on one of the apps, chaps. But, you know, one thing, have you seen on Facebook, there's a couple magicians on there. On Facebook, it posts up, you know, like one guy is